Hi there, I'm LOD, and I decided to record a little discovery I made recently. Kind of modern discovery, really. And I haven't recorded anything lately because reasons. Anyway, it has something to do with so-called LOD models, level of details. The kind of models that I suppose it's also the case for view models in certain games, probably not Left 4 Dead 2. The thing is, props, character models, weapon models, items, etc. They often have several lower poly kinds of sub-models, which are instead rendered at the farther you are from a model, the less detailed it becomes, so that it doesn't strain your graphics or CPU so much. That makes sense. I don't often bother with using LODs. Actually, I almost never do. I only do so occasionally when I just have the models done already, because I'm not doing custom LODs. I should probably. Just at this point, I'm not really doing this. Anyway, most games have the same textures for both view models and world models, which is also the case for Left 4 Dead 2. As you know, if you replace a texture, you install some sort of modified reskin, like I don't know, camouflage or some differently colored, maybe chrome barrels or whatever. It will replace both the view model and the world model texture, because it's frankly the same texture, and it might be used by different materials, plus minus a couple of settings, but usually the texture is the same. It is not always the case. For example, take Left 4 Dead 2 again, for example, because it uses several Counter-Strike Source weapons, which have view models which are more or less fine, but the world models are essentially Counter-Strike 1.6 view models, re-UV mapped, re-skinned, to look similar to the ones you see in the view models, but they are not the same. They use different textures. So say if someone makes a black scout sniper rifle texture for the view model, the world model will still the same unless the person in question also changes that texture. Well, that's kind of makes it slightly more complicated to make replacements for these kind of things. Most mods, they follow the same pattern as using the same texture for both the first person and third person model. And also the case in Payday 2. This is a revolver from Payday 2's recent weapon DLC. This is a view model. It's pretty well made. It's high poly in places where it really needs to be high poly, like the trigger and trigger guard is rather nicely done. The grip is acceptable, I guess. Somebody would call it low poly, but for games like Left 4 Dead 2 and Payday 2 as well, it's very well made. So it has all the details it needs. Some details it doesn't even really need, because yeah, this barrel, what's the word? Bore, I think. This bore is, well, it's very handsomely modeled. Yeah. It's something you probably won't see on the first person anyway, unless, well, you're making screenshots and just inspecting the model in general. The thing is, this is the first person model, and also the third person model if you have HD models on in Payday 2. However, if you don't, the game will actually use a different separate world model for the whole thing. which actually is much lower poly, and in this case it even has not just different textures, because obviously they are very low res, and they also have different UV maps. So for example, if I select the barrel and try to use the view models texture on it, it will not fit. It's now completely messed up. It definitely does not share the same unwraps. The barrel is, well, it's here on the world model texture, but if I apply the view models texture on it, it's gone. So yeah, this, I have a couple of theories why it's made, because for example, as you can see here, the barrel, this barrel shroud, it's completely flat as opposed to having like ridges on it to reduce the poly count. However, some stuff on this model is very high poly, such as yeah, the barrel is still very round, and also the trigger I just talked about, it's still high poly. The cylinder, however, loses some of its details, but not all of them. So yeah, this is a very weirdly optimized, sub-optimized really model, but whatever. I'm using it as LOD 1 for my own reasons, mostly because this model actually helped me to assemble this thing. I've probably talked in one of my videos why working with Payday 2 models is kind of a pain, but anyway. So yeah, and on this texture the ridges are not red, they are actually black, because, well, there is a barrel under this barrel shroud. You can see the barrel shroud it's basically a piece of anodized aluminum over an actual barrel. The barrel itself is, well, it's much darker because it's in the shadow, and yeah, it's not anodized, it's not red, as opposed to, you know, this thing. But the texture of this thing actually, let's view image, it's, yeah, it's, well, almost completely red on the barrel shroud, even the insides of it, but the insides are actually those you know, these parts. So yeah, if you were to use this texture over here, basically this is what would happen. It would be completely red, and there would be no black ridges on it, as opposed to this texture. But yeah, it's really weird. It's not what I'm here about, but I just needed you to know the backstory of what I'm trying to talk about here. So the thing is, we have a third person model, which is slightly lower poly, I guess, and uses very low res textures and completely different UV maps. So it's a different model with a different material set, and I am going to use it as a level of detail model, because this is what you are going to see from a distance. Not much really. The rails are now solid instead of being fully modeled like there. The ridges are gone, and a lot of other details. So yeah, but those are completely separate materials which do not show up on our basic maximum detail model. Ejector, grip, hammer, lock, and the flashlight. Yeah, here is the view model, and LOD 0 of the world model. So here we have our Desert Eagle model, world model replacement. What I'm gonna do now is I am replacing the Desert Eagle with a new custom model, which at a certain point, I think it's 15 meters. Let's make it 5 so it's more readily visible. We're not going to start the game, we're just going to have it in our model viewer. Just it does show up when it has a LOD 15, but I just it's very small because LOD 15 is very far away. It's like 15 meters, I think. I might be wrong, but LOD 5 is fine for the purposes of this video. Naturally, this will be fine. So I'm not going to use these models in the interest of this video. I'm going to re-export them again. Where was I? Okay, we'll just export that again, so that, yeah, you'll just see what's going on. So I'm removing the extra parts such as extra grips, the 6-round cylinder, the speed loader. Why do I even have it here in the first place? A remnant of my view model work in progress. So yeah, we have a barrel, we have pretty much everything. Nothing sticks out. Let's export as SMD. It's W payday 2 Corth. Video 1. Reference, yeah. And now we are going to export. I'm going to remove this high detailed thing completely. Remove extra parts again, and I think this is what we are supposed to see as our LOD. Export W payday 2 core. It's German, I think, but it's like Walther. How do I pronounce it? You know? Korth. Really, some letters together, they just don't really come out of my mouth, like, at all. I constantly mess them up. I should work more on my pronunciation and getting shit right, because for a long time I've been calling elites, and that's elites, I think. So yeah, that's I also don't quite pronounce egregious right. I think it's egregious. Alright. Anywho, video 1. So yeah, our basic model is this one, and at 5 meters or so it replaces our video 1 model with video 2. So yeah, let's save. It's already here, and let's just compile this. Leaking 1 elements, yeah, of course, I've just exported them. There is max export, W payday 2 Corth video. Now I want to put them over there. Open Explorer. Yep, now I can compile them. I don't remember if I still have the textures. We'll see, I guess. Yeah, I no longer have the textures, but that's not really a concern, a matter of concern. What is interesting about this is that the model shows up. Let's change the LOD from 0 to 1. It doesn't. It's not there. It's just not. Here's our LOD 0, and if you move far away from it, will just disappear. Here it says LOD metric, so I'm guessing it's 5 meters from this thing, and it disappears completely. So yeah, I somewhat quickly understood what was going on, but of course I tried turning it on and off. I tried exporting this again and checking if I have it skinned to the correct bones or not. Then I tried a very funny thing, which is I assigned a first-person material, one of the first-person materials, to a third-person flashlight model, and exported this thing again as LOD2 Corth video 3. Let's close that. I'm not even going to use the textures. It's not the point. The point is not the texture itself, but you'll see. You'll see. So I misclicked something. I started the music player. Yeah, let's replace the model, our LOD, and compile it again and see what happens. So let's check auto LOD again. So this is the normal model, and when we go really far away from it, whoop. Do you understand yet what's going on? This is a very funny thing to have, but this is the normal model, which has a first-person grip material, a first-person body material, first-person barrel material, first-person flashlight material, and this is our LOD1, which has disable auto LOD, select one. It has a first-person flashlight material, a third-person barrel, third-person frame, and third-person grip. However, it's not a problem that I do not have Counter-Strike Source installed, or I don't have the materials and the textures don't show up. They do. We have a material now, one of them. However, what is going on here is that these two models share no materials. So when the game, the engine or whatever is responsible for all of this, when that happens, it preloads materials that are used on the highest LOD, and here they are. When it switches the LOD to something smaller, it keeps the same materials. It does not preload the materials which are used on something else. So here we have again our first-person material showing up on the flashlight. So with this in mind, what I did essentially was something funny, as I went back to our not broken model, which is video 2, and let's go back to this thing. Let's delete the original so hide the third person, delete the extra stuff I don't need, speed loader. Okay. So we are going back to our LOD0, the normal model. We're keeping it, we're keeping the whole thing. What are we going to do now is hide that, unhide our 3 the third person, our low poly model. Delete the extra parts we don't need. Now it's gonna get interesting. We want to make sure our LOD0 actually uses materials of this one, so they show up at all. And how we're going to do it is, for example, so what do we need? We need a flashlight. So let's just delete the entire thing, but keep a small portion of it. Yeah, let's delete the whole thing. There is a part of a flashlight over there. If we unhide, it's completely hidden. It's completely hidden, so it's no concern. It's there. It's lurking somewhere inside, but it's already used. It's already gonna be used, even if it's invisible to the human eye, on the LOD0. Yeah, so we're done with this thing. Okay, what do we have here? We also need a piece of the barrel. Let it be, let's say, front side. Let's say front side, and delete everything else. Now, if we unhide our barrel, we are going to see some crap going on. So we're probably not going to have this part show up over there. Or let's do the thing, and for example, we'll just scale it down. Yeah, we'll just scale it down to like 50%. Make sure it's not Z fighting. It's slightly Z fighting, but in order for this to not Z fight, we'll just flip normals. It looks ugly over there, but it works. It's 3ds Max weird magic. So the thing is, it's now it's not facing towards us. It's facing towards there, and it's not two-sided. So it won't render from this side. It will render from the other side, but we will never see it from the other side unless we go inside the model and kind of try to look at it. So this is going to be completely invisible in our case. It's not gonna bother us at all, and it's going to tell this model to use this material anyway. So there is a bit of Z fighting, but it's not gonna be visible in game when it's one-sided. So we're done here. What we do have remaining? Body, cylinder. Cylinder uses its own texture, as does ejector. Ejector and cylinder shares the texture file, so let's just leave a small portion of ejector. It's not going to be visible anyway, so let's just delete everything else and keep this small bit that uses the cylinder texture, cylinder material over there. It's gonna be fine. Grip, let's just select a random polygon, 1 or 2, doesn't matter, and delete everything else, and flip normals. It's looking funny again, but it's now facing over there. In there, it's not gonna show up unless we tell it it's two-sided. We're not gonna tell it it's two-sided, so it's gonna be pretty much invisible. Hammer. Okay, hammer uses the same thing as body, so let's just delete the body and delete the lock. And let's keep. Oh, misclicked. Let's keep this part, for example. We can reduce the number of polygons over there, but in the interest of the length of the video, it's already pretty long. I deviate a lot, so I won't. Anyway, here's what remains of our low poly model. These parts, these little things, will be lurking inside our model. so that the high poly model will actually use some of the, well, all of the materials of the low poly one, so that it actually is preloaded. Yeah. So let's unhide all. It's gonna look like a completely normal high poly model, but it's hiding a dark secret. So LOD2 Korth video 4. And let's place it over there. Change our base model to video 4, which will be replaced by video 2 LOD, which is purely low poly without any extra changed materials, unlike video 3, if you've been paying attention. So and let's compile and see what happens. This is base LOD and this is LOD1. It shows up even without textures. Having no textures is not the same as having no materials. It's looking for materials. It's looking for materials, but it doesn't find it. So this is what we see. It's a debug missing material thingy. And what we've seen before was the engine not even looking for those materials because they weren't used by LOD0, basically. And this LOD now keeps the same materials as well. It uses its own materials, but now the first one, this one, it has some of the polygons which use the materials of the second one, so it actually loads, and that's what's happening. Now if we check auto LOD, you might see that something changes over there if you squint. Let me just recompile it for LOD1, for example, so that it changes much earlier, and we'll just see how it changes. Model auto LOD, it's already changed. You see, yeah, it changes at 1 meter away from our face. It changes to a lower poly, and it actually shows up. Okay, you might not believe me because it has no textures. Let's find the textures. Let's go. Well, why not? We have some time to spare. This video is actually not longer than half an hour, which I expected it to kind of be almost like that, and yeah, so far we are within the schedule. So where is my custom working folder? There's the models over there. Let's refresh, and now we see our revolver. If we go far away from it, it will actually change the materials to the entire model, which has its own materials. And yeah, it does even have very different color, at least on the barrel. You won't really see it unless you're playing on a potato computer, which I believe makes the LODs appear much earlier, like we compiled on the first meter. The change is really, it's just, yeah, it's jarring. So yeah, if I were to, well, go back and replace it back to the first model without those extra materials, we will actually have none of that. Да. Я сейчас заканчиваю. Because yeah, if we don't have the repeating materials, it will just disappear. It will not render whatsoever. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. That's a little neat discovery I made. So, and also I guess a little teaser for my upcoming mod. So stay tuned and hope you have a nice day, and thanks for watching. Bye.